All right guys, we're back, and today I want to show you guys one important step of the paint booth, and that's changing the filters and keeping your hose new. You want to make sure you change your hose out every so often, because after you bake the hose so many times, it'll get brittle and it'll actually break off and spit out pieces through the airline, and it can cause fisheyes in your paint job. So we're going to go ahead and change our hose out. Our hose is pretty beat up on the end. It's starting to swell around the fittings, and we're going to change that, and we're going to change the booth filters on the floor. We're not going to change up top, and I'm going to talk to you guys on what I do and how long I wait in between the filter change, how long I wait in between sliming the booth, pressure washing it, and cleaning the sealing filter. So let's get into this one. All right, so the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is get our hose out of here. So you guys see here, this hose is starting to let loose at this here fitting, because you guys know we're always bending this, and with the pressure surging into this will eventually blow out. So right now we don't have any pressure on it, but when there's air in this line, this thing is getting ready to let loose on it. So we're gonna go get our hose, our new one, change this out, and we'll probably go ahead and change this out as well and leave this as a backup in case one blows out later. So that way we know we have a nice fresh hose. And this, because after a while, you guys see inside there, they got those little bearings. Those will break loose from going in and out so much, and then you'll have an air leak in your hose. So what I like to do is when I change my hose, I'll go ahead and put a new one of these on, and I'll save this for a backup in case I have one that breaks later on. So let's pull the hose out of here, and then we'll start doing our filters in the floor. All right, so we're gonna just go ahead and get this out of here. And I know a lot of guys are using the high flow hoses, and I used to use them as well, but to me, I haven't really seen that much of a difference in the high flow hose. I definitely run the high flow fittings. To me, I've never really had an issue, so I like these flexible hoses a little bit better than the real hard, stiff ones, you know, back in the day style. So they are good, but right now, this is what I'm using here. So let's go ahead and change it out. We're gonna go ahead and pull our grates off to the sides, and I use a hook when I'm doing them. So I make sure that I get them out of my way, and you gotta be careful. I've seen guys fall through the pit, not thinking and not paying attention to what they're doing, actually step in there, and I've seen people break legs. So be very careful, and remember that you got a pit when you pull these out of here. So we're gonna go ahead and slide them out. I like to change these filters out every 2 weeks, and the longest I like to wait is 3 weeks on it. So once we do that, you'll see when we pull them out how crunchy they're gonna be. It puts a lot of strain on the motors when they can't suck the way it needs to. So let's get these out, and we're gonna go ahead and put new ones in. So that's the filters after we got the grates off on this. So right now the booth is turned off. That way it's not gonna suck this down as I go to pull it out of here. So you guys can see it's definitely full of overspray, and it's doing its job. So once this here gets to where this is full like this, it's hard for the fumes to go out of the booth. So you start to get the booth to bellow, and it's not sucking all the fumes out right away. So you'll notice right away when you're clearing, it'll take a while for the actual fumes to get out of the booth and escape, because these are clogged. So you make sure you change them, because it's definitely gonna help the flow in the booth. It's gonna keep your motors lasting longer, and it's gonna get a better paint job, because the pressure is designed to flow with clean filters. So when they make these booths, and they set them up for how they're gonna work, they have them all set up for different flow rates. So some of the booths will actually have motors, and they'll turn up and down based off of the pressure in the booth. So they'll adjust for the actual filters being dirty, and you'll hear the motors turn up as they get dirty. So you wanna make sure you keep a regular routine of cleaning them, because it's definitely gonna let the booth last longer. And you guys see that they're staying up tall because they're very full. So like I said, we do a lot of hours here, so they get full within 2 weeks. They really need to be changed. All right, so we got our roll, and I'm gonna go ahead and roll out my filter and get it in there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put my grates back in before I start sweeping up anything. I don't blow out my booth because I don't want to stir up dirt and have it get on the walls, because these booth walls are slimed and they will collect dust. So you want to keep down the dust, and that's why the booth is off right now while I'm doing this. And we'll roll our filters in, and then we'll get them back in and we'll do our cleaning. So let's get them in there. All right, so one thing I want to show you is make sure you have your filter up all the way and almost hanging out a little bit on this here. That way when you put your grate in, you don't have any holes that are going to be with no filter, because if you don't have a filter all the way inside this pit, not only is it going to blow fumes out into the environment, but you're going to slowly ruin your booth, because you're going to get overspray on your fan, and after a while that fan will get out of balance and you'll start to wear the bearings on the actual fan, and that's a very big expensive fan to have to replace. So if you have gaps in your filters, you're going to get that thing really filled up quick, and then you're going to wear the bearing on the actual shaft for the exhaust. So you want to make sure that you do have filters in every bit of the actual exhaust part. So I'm going to cut these out and get it closed up. All right, we got all our grates back in, and now I'm going to go ahead and turn on the booth, and that way I can start sweeping. So I am interested in getting that mat that goes on the floor. I reached out to that company that makes it. I think it's like 90, and it's got the green, fluorescent green kind of flooring on it. That way, instead of doing all this sweeping, you can just go ahead and use a vacuum on it. So I'm looking into getting that, or I'm looking into getting the pig mat. I actually reached out to that company, and I didn't hear anything back from them. So I'm still waiting on that, but we are going to end up getting something on the floor. That way you can come in and vacuum it, and that the hairs that are in that mat keep the dirt in the actual carpet, because it's got something to stick to. Whereas these booths here, when you have an open floor with nothing on it, you'll get dust that'll actually slide around and can blow back up because it doesn't have them hairs to stick in. So I did use the Vilbus spray before that keeps the floor sticky, but this is a lot of area to be using that, you know, daily, and that stuff isn't cheap. So what I do is I sweep it for now, but we are checking into that product. So if any of you guys are using it, let me know how it works. To me, it makes good sense that the dirt would get stuck in to the actual fibers on the floor and not be able to turbulate. So let's go ahead and sweep this up and get this thing cleaned up. All right, so we got it all cleaned up. We've got new floor filters in it. We got our new hose, and we got our new coupler on it ready to go. That way we don't have any trouble with our hose, because they do break down after time, especially when you bake your hose. So a lot of guys used to take the hose in and out of the booth, but to me, I just leave it in here and I change it every so often. So as far as the intakes, we don't do those very often because they are something you don't have to change as much, especially with this setup we have here. So, and as for the walls, we slime them and we pressure wash the booth probably every 6 months. But this here is a new booth, and we're going to be doing it here soon again and getting it cleaned back up. So we'll pressure wash it and then slime it again. That way it protects the walls and keeps it white. So I don't wet the floor down after I'm done cleaning the booth out, because eventually you'll rust out the bottom of the booth. I like to just pressure wash it the one time when I'm going to go ahead and clean it and slime it, because if you keep wetting this floor every day or every week, you're going to rust out the bottom, and that's why you'll see old booths, they're all rusted out. So don't wet the booth unless you have to. So that's the routine I do. I'll see you on the next one.